whole tune in my head. It was all there, I could see all the notes, and I just had to get it out.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside.
What did you say your name was again?
My name is
Reggie!
Reginald Dwight.
Reginald. That's my granddad's name.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Film Seizure at the Movies. I am Geoff Arbuckle, and this time around I am going to talk a little bit about the new movie that just came out this weekend, Rocketman, starring Taron Egerton as Elton John. Before I get to that, I do want to do some quick little housekeeping bits. Of course, you can find new episodes of Film Seizure with myself and Jason Oliver each and every Wednesday at filmseizure.com. You can also find new episodes of Monster Mondays, which I do each Monday afternoon at filmseizure.com as well. You can not only follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Film Seizure, you can also find our episodes on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Spotify, and we even upload them to YouTube if that's where you like to watch them. So, Rocketman, which I think when we started seeing trailers for this came out around the time, if I'm not mistaken, as Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, certainly, I think kind of taking advantage of the hype that was building behind Bohemian Rhapsody as it was coming out and as it was released. So I think that it's going to be important at some point in time to kind of talk about maybe some unfair comparisons that may be drawn between these two movies. But first and foremost, I want to say I really enjoyed this movie. I might have liked it a little bit more than Bohemian Rhapsody, which that was a movie I liked quite a bit last year. I thought it was very well deserving of Rami Malek of winning Best Actor playing Freddie Mercury. And I kind of see maybe the same thing possibly happening for Taron Egerton, or at the very least, very, very likely he's going to get nominated for a bunch of awards, if not win at least the Golden Globe for Best Actor for musical or comedy. And it might go all the way to the Oscars. It's hard to say right now, being less than halfway through the year, but this movie is a better movie than Bohemian Rhapsody. So I want to try to save some of that comparison until a little bit later in this review. But there's really not much that I can honestly say about this movie because it is a musical. It does kind of play around a little bit with narrative. It really kind of it's very introspective for the Elton John character in this movie. How much of this is really true or just simply inspired by his life, going to be hard to say. I feel like there are important beats in this that are probably true, or at least as true as he will tell you they will be true. But this is a kind of a fantasy movie. It's told like it's told in some ways like music videos, like a series of music videos. In some ways, it's kind of told on a very personal, introspective way. It's also told on this very grand kind of old school musical where a number will happen. It's not necessarily jarring when it begins, but what you might find is like very classic musicals, it will usually lead to some sort of big dancing number or something that you would expect to almost see on stage. In fact, I would say that this almost comes across more like a stage play, like a musical that you would see on Broadway or something, as opposed to more along the lines of a dramatic movie-going experience. That said, though, there are a lot of really good performances in this movie. Bryce Dallas Howard, of all people, plays Elton John's mother, who she seems to you would think that she's too young to play that part, but she actually plays the part really, really well. She's very it's odd because just when you think that she might be a halfway decent character or a decent person, she turns around and says something incredibly heartless to Elton John and is very, very almost like she's above the other people in her life. Like, she doesn't have space or time for anybody else except for herself. And it's some of the best dramatic moments come from Taron Egerton having to deal with this terrible mother character, and, you know, being told that he will never experience true love. He will never be loved because he's a homosexual. The movie really kind of plays very well with that kind of idea that that it's a struggle for Elton to kind of figure out who he is. Is he Reginald Dwight, or is he Elton John? Did he actually, I mean, you see it kind of in some of the trailers where he's given the advice that he has to kill the person he was born to become the person he wanted to be. Did he actually kill off that Reginald Dwight part of himself and get subsumed by the Elton John part of it? The person who went from being this shy little boy to this very flamboyant and extroverted adult. There's some interesting segments in which you see him dealing with his younger self. Some of that is even seen in the trailers. There are key moments in which he confronts his younger self, the innocent self before he started playing piano. So there's some really, really touching moments in this movie, and it's really surprising in a movie that doesn't really seem to worry so much about a timeline. Like, it hits some important parts, like when he kind of hits it big, and I believe it's accurate that his first big hit was Your Song, and then the rise of stardom. But they do have these other songs from later in his career that they kind of sprinkle in various moments. It's really more for backdrop for a scene or a way to express himself in a moment. So it's not quite like Bohemian Rhapsody where I struggled sometimes, even though I'm not a Queen expert at all. I struggled sometimes with the timeline of that movie, saying that I don't think this song came out at this stage in their career, or I think this song was earlier than this stage or later than this stage. This is all fantasy. So this is talking about Elton John as a person, as this persona that is a troubled person because of the time he grew up in, and the time and the parents that he had, and it's about him surviving that. In fact, the crescendo of the movie leads to a very famous song of his that I was always under the impression was about him being a survivor of these troubling times in his life, struggling with self, struggling with booze, struggling with substance, and so on. So the movie really, really plays that well, and it's really beautiful the way that the movie is shot too. It's very vibrant. It's very lively. The opening scene, or the opening number, I should say, is "The Bitch Is Back," and it's being sung by his younger self, and everybody's in very muted colors. They're almost black and white, but his younger self and his older self watching this take place and watching this play out are in very bright colors. And it's I like how they played with that, and I like that, Elton John's a flamboyant guy. You need this movie to be flamboyant in reflection of that, and I think that they do that very well to show that he's kind of he's a little bit of a clown. He covers up his pain with these outrageous outfits and these outrageous stage presence and so on and so forth. And again, that comes down to Taron Egerton really, really playing this part well. And you really feel for the guy, and you really knowing that he also Taron Egerton actually sings in this movie. This is a proper musical. This is not Elton John's music being played and people lip syncing to it. I mean, these are performances by the actors themselves, and they're all really, really good. It's a soundtrack I'd like to have, just because they're great versions of these songs that are already great to begin with. So this movie is very, very good. I think that any emotion that you got from seeing the trailers, particularly that first trailer where it was just the music, it pays off. It is honest, and it makes you realize that this was not just a trailer that was put together to make you feel something, to make you want to buy that ticket on May 31st or whatever the case was. It's legitimate. It's a legitimate emotional movie. And then the later trailers that came out, I know my co-host Jason Oliver was very concerned about how the movie was being represented in later trailers, like that he wanted it to be that fantasy. He wanted it to be that musical kind of magical realism type of story. But the second trailer came out after the immense success and the Oscar nominations for Bohemian Rhapsody, and it made it look more like a drama, like Bohemian Rhapsody, and it's not that. I think it's just comparing the two angles that this movie can be viewed in: the dramatic side and the musical, more fantastical side of it. So, comparing it to Bohemian Rhapsody, I feel like there are going to be some people who just flat out like Bohemian Rhapsody more because it was first. And obviously there are going to be people who may be put off a little bit by Rocketman being a real musical. I know some people that I talked to about this in the real world was like, I saw it. I didn't realize it was a musical. I had to adjust to that. I thought it was just going to be a straight drama. So it's Bohemian Rhapsody is going to shape some people's opinions. However, considering that Taron Egerton also looks very much like the person he's playing, much like Rami Malek looked like Freddie Mercury, Egerton certainly looks like Elton John, and the fact that Egerton actually sings is impressive, and he should be applauded for that. And I think that it'd be interesting to see at the end of the year where people still feel about this movie, because it's very good. I mean, it's a movie that I could see, like I said, getting a lot of award nominations, and Egerton specifically getting nominated for Best Actor. The problem is that those nominations are like 7 months away. It's a long time to get there, and will people still remember him? Will people still be watching this movie when it comes out on DVD and experiencing those same things that they did when they first saw it? I don't know. But I would say that this movie is very good. There are several performances in this that are really good. Jamie Bell, who plays Bernie Taupin, is really good in this too. And as I'd mentioned, Bryce Dallas Howard as Elton John's mom. She is a piece of work. And what's funny is that I don't think she knows that she's a piece of work. I think that's what makes that character really, really interesting. You almost love to hate her for her being just the way that she is. Much like you kind of have to like Elton John for being the way that he is, even when he's going through his struggles. He's kind of the opposite. He's the anti his parents. So there are several very good performances in this. There are several very good scenes, very good musical numbers and set pieces that surround that musical number. The sequence where Rocketman plays is especially fun to watch, even though it comes from a not fun setup when he's basically at the lowest point in his life almost. The scene in which he's playing Pinball Wizard is really neat and fun too. So this is a great movie. If you like musicals, if you like Elton John, if you just like Elton John's music, go check this out. I think you'd really like it. All right. So that does it for this round of Film Seizure at the Movies. Like I said, you can catch new episodes of Film Seizure each Wednesday at filmseizure.com. Also on Mondays, you can catch Monster Mondays, where I talk about a different monster movie every week. Same place, filmseizure.com. You can read some of my more playful articles where I watch usually a B movie or some sort of bad movie and write about it at bmovieanima.com. New articles post there on Fridays. follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Film Seizure. You can follow us on SoundCloud. You can also subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, and Spotify. And of course, like I said, also we upload our episodes to YouTube. So you can always, if that's your preferred method of receiving podcasts, then by all means, take advantage of that as well. Until next time, when I will probably be talking about Dark Phoenix, as that's the next movie to come out, I am Geoff Arbuckle, and you've been listening to Film Seizure at the Movies.
I'm thinking of changing my name to Elton.
But that's my name.
Yeah, I know.
You could be the best-selling artist in America if you desire. I was trying to do something bold. Why you sell something flashy?
Can you even play the piano in those?
Let them know who you are. And just don't kill yourself with drugs.